America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the walls. The chair is against the walls. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Hey, and welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Come to you live each weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for an hour. It's episode 817. It's a Tuesday. Tuesdays we typically talk about our Second Amendment, but didn't do a show yesterday because I was sick. So I was just talking to Ghost and Gary here off air that one of my goals tonight is to figure out what I should eat because I haven't eaten since Sunday, I guess. And I'm not really, I know I need to eat something, but I'm not interested in putting anything in me right now. So I'm curious to hear some suggestions on that. But otherwise, we can talk about Second Amendment stuff here in a bit. It's a panel discussion, so if you'd like to join in on the show, you can jump in over on gunchannels.com. It's a community we built, went on 6 years ago, place for conversations like this one to take place. And yeah, I was sick yesterday, so posted something on Instagram just to say how appreciative I was to the people that were wondering where I was for whatever stuff I started to miss that was scheduled for yesterday. And that was kind of neat. And then I posted a thing to let everybody, I basically just decided I'd post one post to say thanks to all the people that had texted me and contacted me. And also just show off the puppy. She was real nice yesterday. And got a lot of responses to that post. And it's something that I don't ever look for and I don't think about it. But it's definitely grateful to see a lot of people that give a shit about each other out here. And, you know, they haven't, I guess, encountered it. It's humbling and very, I don't know what the words are. So thanks for that. And anyway, I guess we can dig into the show. So thanks, Ghost, jumping in from Arkansas.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
And then we got Gizzard jumping in from Kansas. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
So, yeah, like I say, I'm kind of queasy, and you guys are asking me how I'm going, and it's didn't have good times yesterday, and haven't eaten anything since Sunday, so I'm trying to look for something to eat here that isn't going to be crazy. Normally I go for something like an oatmeal or like an apple or something, but man, I am not liking the idea of eating oatmeal. So
I think pancake sounds pretty good.
Yeah, let's not even talk about anything with bread. But Scott is saying a bowl of cereal. I don't know if I could handle the milk right now. I don't eat milk a lot, and I don't think I could handle a big bowl of milk, but I appreciate it because I was thinking about soup. But I don't know, the way I was driving before, and I don't know. One thing, I'm super cheap. I can't handle paying soup, like paying for water, you know, salty water. But I just couldn't figure out what kind of soup to buy. It's not like there's soup restaurants, right? You have to go to some restaurant and see what soup they have, I guess. Or like some
maybe some like ramen noodles or something like that.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't have anything like that, but I don't know if I want all them noodles either. But I was thinking maybe the broth from it. I don't know. So we don't have to fixate on it. But if anybody has ideas for what reintroduce a gut to after it being vacated, is that a polite way of saying it? Then, yeah, I don't eat chicken. So, yeah, I won't be eating chicken noodle soup. But that's, I guess, where I was getting at, is some kind of hot water type of thing. Now I can go over to the Walmart or whatever and probably get some kind of soup, but
yeah, a good like vegetable soup, or I don't know. Do you like tomato? Like a tomato soup would be kind of good. Like maybe I know you don't want bread, but maybe a grilled cheese and tomato soup might be good for you.
Yeah, I really thought about a grilled cheese, but I'm thinking cheese and bread. I don't want that. So toast, same thing. Normally I would eat toast, but I think a bunch of bread is what got me all sick in the first place. So I'm just mentally, I'm not eating any bread right now. Lentil soup. See, that's something I'm not thinking about. Because that's something that is still filling, but it isn't really, you know, like a bean or a lentil or something. That might be the way to go. Some kind of a bean soup.
Okay, so what is lentil, honestly? I really don't know what it is.
Honestly, I don't know where it is either. It comes out of a plant, but it's basically like a bean. You know, it's hard, and you have to soak it for a long time and then cook it. So I don't know where it comes from. I think like a bean. What does a bean come from? Where the hell does a bean come from? Most beans come out of a pod, right? So it must.
Yeah.
Out of a pod? No, I think that might be the way to go, because the same thing. I was thinking ramen or something like that, and there's some like what's that soup called? Pho, where it's just a bunch of noodles and stuff. And I was thinking, I don't have to eat the noodles. I could just eat the soup out around there. But most of them are chicken based, and I don't feel like eating that. Plus, they're super salty. But I bet you I can get some kind of a canned, like old people low salt soup.
I'm not a big salad fan, but maybe it's a good salad might be good for you.
You know, honestly, that's what I was thinking too on the way home. Just stop at like any place and just get the plain old lettuce and tomato salad. With the tomato soup, Pete was saying the acidity, and that's what I was thinking too. Normally, I'll eat the shit out of tomatoes all the time, but not when I'm queasy. I think that.
Do you like peanut butter?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Since you don't want the bread maybe on a cracker or maybe even a celery or something like that.
Well, I'm thinking that celery and peanut butter actually sounds pretty damn good.
It does, and that peanut butter will help coat your stomach also, so that'll actually probably be good for you.
Get something in there and not be. I'm worried about it turning into cement in there. That's eating a bunch of bread. So anyway, we don't. I appreciate it. I've gotten a bunch of suggestions. We don't have to make this too much of a food chat, but I appreciate that. I think I will go get some kind of a bean or lentil type of soup that I don't have to cook forever. And then I'm gonna get some celery. That's actually I like that idea. All right, so Clover jumped in, Ghost jumped in. You guys said you guys were talking with Yuta. How did that go? You did a book with 27 words. I didn't get to see the show. What's all that about?
Yeah, it was a great chat. It was very informative. There was a lot of people in the chat that maybe you're not familiar with Yuta or what he's doing, and we talked. I mean, we talked a lot of different stuff. But people that don't know Yuta, he's a really fascinating guy. Comes from a really cool place, and we had our talk today, G. But his how and why are completely different than anyone I know. So it's pretty cool. I thought it was great.
Well, what do you mean completely different? Just because he's doing it from the dad for kids kind of thing?
Well, not only that, but from the Jewish side, because all the questions were about synagogues and caring in synagogues and all that, and he was talking about, and it got into the Second Amendment, as far as the reason why the Second Amendment is so important is it guarantees our right to defend ourselves, just not just for public, in self-defense, but from a government. We got into the Holocaust a little bit as to, he said he had over 30 relatives that perished during the Holocaust. 30 people. His family. He said his family could be much bigger now, with cousins and all that. But 30 people over in his family died in the Holocaust, and that was because they disarmed the citizenship. And where he's coming from is a whole different perspective from the Jewish side of gun ownership than a lot of us. So it was really interesting.
I don't know how many people follow his Instagram. It was a while back. I forget the date because I'm not Jewish. Was it May 1st? I guess I know the date. On May 1st, right, is when they do that siren in I guess the whole country, right? They blow the siren, an air raid siren or something, and then like literally everybody stops and stands there in a moment of silence in remembrance of the Holocaust. Can you imagine an entire country stopping, paying respects like that? Amazing.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and we all know him. But he's a great person. But yeah, the 27 words it was so funny because we were talking about that book, and I made a mention because someone asked what was the significance of the title 27 words. And there are people within our own community, and it's no bash on them, but there are people in our community that don't realize that the Second Amendment is 27 words long. And that's where he's done the gun education, the gun safety books for kids, and now he wanted to move into the history of the Second Amendment and trying to not only teach kids, but obviously some of these parents that may not know, but the significance of the Second Amendment in the history of the gun community.
They're correcting me on the gun channel side, or the YouTube side, it's for the soldiers that died in service protecting the country. So that's, I guess, a little more specific than just the Holocaust.
Still cool, either way.
Yeah, it's still awesome. Yeah, for sure.
It makes you wonder what if we had something, we don't really do anything here for like 9/11 or anything, do we?
Oh, no, but I don't think we should for 9/11. We do it for the 4th of July, and we do it for Memorial Day and Veterans Day and well, this week will be, or, yeah, when is it coming up here? Will be Armed Forces Day. So we have days that aren't mandatory, but I think we have, well, there used to be parades and stuff and moments of silences. I don't think you see that's too much anymore.
Well,
Sorry, I was yawning.
Life moves too fast. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but I mean, I don't know. I think it's good to remember your past because so much of that tends to get forgotten. I mean, especially when people are out there. There's a large majority of people. I know Yankee was kind of railing on it a little bit earlier. With the whole Patreon thing again, but there's people out there, man, and I get it. I had to spend time with the grandbaby Monday and found out about that Saturday. So it was like, I had all these things that, I kind of needed to get done, but, at some point, you make your decisions and, your family and work and things like that are always going to take precedence. And a lot of times you just, I don't know. I mean, you let stuff like remembering history and keeping up with current events and stuff like that fall by the wayside. And, I don't know. I don't know how we slow life down with technology and everything that we talk about. I don't know that we do. I think we've made a turn or, went over the bell curve or whatever. It's a done deal at this point.
Well, it's certainly a moving thing, right? I mean, I guess we're talking like awareness of past. Well, past keeps getting bigger and significant things multiply, right? There's additional significant things. So, I mean, we have to give things less awareness as we go forward, just as a culture, civilization, or whatever. I mean, back in the day when there was only like 7 things that happened, it was really easy to remember all of them in great detail, right? And then when there was 70 things that happened, okay, you can keep track of most of them, and together everybody kept track of all of them pretty good. When there's 700 things that kept going on, then now it's okay, you got to figure out which ones you really care about. And then when there's 7,000 things, right? So at some point, you're right, we will have to get to where we're like vaguely aware of all these things that happen. And I don't know how we gauge significance to them, but I guess that's one of the threats of when you're claim to power or claim to whatever is tradition. When other things come along, then that tradition isn't as whatever.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said about remembering the past, and we talk about different things. And this month in particular, in the beginning of next month, and a lot of people tend to forget June 6th is a significant date. And people say, well, what the hell is June 6th? Well, June 6th was D-Day, June 6th, 1944. And people these days, especially the younger generation, I don't even know if they really talk much about D-Day in high school anymore, but D-Day is one of the most significant days in the history of the world because that invasion on Omaha Beach in Normandy in France, that changed the tide of the war to where there was a chance that we win this war because who knows what this world would look like had D-Day not happened. So, it's dates like that kind of tend to get forgotten. I talk about it all the time, maybe because I'm a little biased, but Memorial Day, I try to make people realize, yes, I want you to go cook out. I want you to go on their boat and barbecue and be with friends and drink and all that, do all of that. But remember why we're able to do that. And Memorial Day is much more significant than just barbecuing. It's remembering the people that gave their lives for us to have that opportunity. So I think, yeah, I mean, remembering why things happen is really important.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I forgot where I was going to go with that. I was thinking as you were saying that we could transition into something here and then transition on to the topic we were kind of chatting about in the side chat here. But I can't remember that transition anymore. So somebody had said earlier, Scott had said earlier, a bunch of the YouTube channels got demonetized. Is that something going around again, or is that?
I've heard the number of 30 and upwards of 30 firearms related channels that not limited or no ad. They literally got the email from YouTube saying we are demonetizing your channel. So I've heard a couple of our friends, Mark from Fit and Fire, the Daily Shooter, a buddy of mine who's Jarhead6. I don't know if you guys watch him or not, but he's a friend of mine. He's a Marine. They all got literally demonetized today. So Clover probably knows a lot more about it than I do.
They got Jarhead 6.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah,
got
he's a good
Jarhead
friend of
6 as
mine
well.
too. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got him today
They
as well.
what they did is they pulled the YouTube Partner Program out from under them, and it was really interesting. They've all gotten the same email, and I'm going to put this out there that it's not just gun channels that got hit.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It never is, and seldom does anybody talk about that. All the rant videos that you see so far now is about how they're attacking the gun channels, and okay, I mean, yes, it appears that we've taken a hit, sure, but other niches and channels have as well. But everybody seemingly has gotten the same email, which is it's kind of weird. And it's all worded the same way. All the links point to the same place, but then you've got these multiple niches involved. So it's really weird, and multiple levels even within just the gun channels, because you have the more Second Amendment channels, more of the review channels, more of the live streaming or podcasting channels, things like that. So it's going to be interesting moving forward to see if we can find some common denominators and figure out what has gone on, or did, the YouTube algorithms that seem to be the lords of the platform nowadays, did they just freak out or become triggered over something? Was this an attack on some type of conservatism, or some type of anti-gunner attack, or an attack on another specific niche? Was it backlash? Some of the gamer stuff. There's some, I don't know, some stuff I don't even want to mention, but going on with some gaming channels and stuff like now that require, weirdness with underage viewers and things. I'll just leave it at that. Was there, that's huge backlash, and these are channels that, major followers compared to all the gun channels combined, right? So was there backlash on that triggered something? I mean, there's just so much of stuff in there, but the email that everybody received basically said that they have reviewed their channel and found something to the effect, and I don't have it in front of me, but you could pretty much you scroll through Instagram, like I said, Mark or Ghost said, Mark with Fit and Fire or Daily Shooter, or several of them. If you you can read it, they've got it put up there, but something to the effect of, they went through their channel and something about a large percentage, or the majority, or most of, or something like that, the content that's on your channel does not meet the guidelines, not of the YouTube community policy, which has to do with strikes, or any type of thing like that as far as YouTube policy, but the YouTube Partner Program policy, which is interesting. So were there changes made to that policy, is something that this is all kind of new. I'm not aware of yet, but I'm going to try to get up to speed as quickly as I can, starting in the morning. But yeah, so basically they just yanked them from being able to be monetized. And they legitimately demonetized. I know that gets thrown around a lot. People go, "Oh, this was demonetized and that was demonetized," and it wasn't. It was ad restricted. It wasn't really demonetized. You still got ads. You're still getting some kind of, a little bit, a pittance off of it or whatever. This was straight up. They didn't just demonetize all the videos. They straight up just removed monetization from the channels altogether, claiming that the majority of these channels, like I said, we're not in the majority of videos on the channel. We're not in compliance with the partner program policy. What's strange about that is that, at this point, there's hundreds of channels easily affected across all niches. And what's strange about that is there's no way that this was done by like manual people going through and clicking things and shutting stuff down on channels. It's not like they had a team of people. There's no freaking way. I don't think that's possible to review videos on all these channels and deem them that way. So there's been some type of, like I said, there was some kind of type of an algorithmic trigger that was pulled or something like that. So hopefully these channels will be able to get back in 30 days. It's not a forever thing. That's another thing. So if you get people out there talking smack about, you know, how it's over forever or whatever, they can reapply in 30 days. So that is,
that's one of the things that a buddy of mine told me, that at least he's
Yeah.
got a chance in 30 days, you know?
yeah. And then if you don't, then you've got another 30 days and so forth and so on. I mean, it's how that works. It's a rolling thing every 30 days. But, you know, in some of the looking around I did, you know, we talked about it, of course, Thursday night. I've compiled a lot more information on these controversial words. We found a lot of interesting stuff and figured out a lot of interesting stuff last Thursday night. I found even a lot more. And, you know, I'm kind of curious. You know, I've been on that kick and that bandwagon now for, you know, officially all of this month, pretty much, working hard to figure all of that stuff out. And in looking at some of these channels and stuff, I'm wondering if it's not some word, combination of words, something like that, that is, you know, that was part of the problem. You know, I don't know. But I know I have reached out to a few of the channels. First of all, asked, you know, did they have any recourse? Unfortunately, it appears the vast majority of these channels, not just in the firearms niche, but others as well, it appears that they appears that they're mostly smaller channels. Certainly not small compared to myself. Most of them are larger than that, but you know, less than 100,000 channels seems like for the most part.
But they don't have a rep or a contact.
Yeah, that's what I was fixing to say, and that's what's bad is they really don't have any recourse at all. They just got to take it on the chin and try to deal with it. And the couple I have made contact with told me that they're like, well, we don't know what to do. Now I think the two I talked to probably had friends in high places. If those friends, supposed friends, were willing to help pull some strings, they could get something done. But that's neither here nor there. And then I said, hey, I'm available if you want to go over your channel before it comes time to, resubmit or whatever. You want to go over your channel, look at some things, try to tweak and clean some things up, because several of these channels, they were, like I said, larger than me, but good Lord, some of them only had 50 videos or only had 100 videos. And part of what I'm thinking is that, if they're doing things that are causing ad restriction, because there's a lot of people that complain about that. They're like, well, most of my videos are demonetized. And what they mean, again, is that they're ad restricted. I'm sitting on about 900 videos. I've got less than 30 that are ad restricted. So that's not a very high ratio. However, if that algorithm's coming around and certain things are triggering it, and it runs across the channel, let's say with 100 videos, and let's say that same number of 30 are ad restricted, well, that's nearly a third. That's a fairly significant amount, right? So maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's saying, hey, most of the videos on this are ad restricted anyway or whatever. So, this is a concern. We're going to turn the monetization off until, they make an effort to try to get these yellow icons back green, right? To, get the content, the metadata, everything in such an order that it looks okay to our robots, to our system. And I'm speaking off the cuff, honestly, at this point, because this news is a few hours old, Ghost. I mean, 3 or 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I've got the email that was sent. A buddy of mine sent it to me, forwarded it to me, and if you, I don't know if you want me to read it or not, but I've got it here if you want me to.
Yeah, it's the language of it I thought was interesting, and I don't have it in front of me, but yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it was,
I've got it right here.
yeah.
Yeah, it just says during a recent review, our team of policy specialists carefully looked over the videos you've uploaded to your channel. We found that a significant portion of your channel is not in line with our YouTube partner program policies. As of today, your channel is not eligible to monetize, and you will not have access to monetization tools and features. Please go to our monetization page to read more about the specific policy our specialist flagged. We know this is tough news, and sometimes we have to make difficult decisions. We have a responsibility to ensure our community is safe for creators, viewers, and advertisers. At the same time, we understand that you may have unintentionally made mistakes. That's why you'll be able to reapply for the YouTube Partner Program in 30 days. This 30-day time period allows you to make changes to your channel to make sure it's in line with our policies. What this means for your channel: you'll continue to have access to most creator features on YouTube that enable you to grow your audience, build your community, and manage your videos. You can upload, edit, or delete your videos, read, respond to, or moderate your comments, analyze your channel performance and YouTube analytics, get best practices and strategic advice from the Creator Academy, and connect to other creators in the YouTube Help Forum. Interesting. But for them to sit there and say that their specialists, quote unquote, reviewed your videos, I think that that's very far-fetched, to say the least.
Yeah, there's no way.
Well, if you have a department and you tell them, how many years of videos are uploaded every day? I don't know. It's like 72 days.
400 hours of YouTube is uploaded a minute.
So 400 hours a minute, and your job is to your task is to try to deal with that. You don't expect someone to watch every video. So yeah, their department. I mean, I did something similar, or I was in departments that were similar at AOL, and it was much smaller internet, much smaller base, right? I think. And you would build things to go out and crawl. Like we keep calling them Al Gore's rhythms, but you build little things that go out and figure things out. And that's what Clover's getting at. And John Z was saying, doesn't want to be a conspiracy nut, but you're wrong. He thinks exactly that. They're looking at it and they're blaming the logarithm. But just look about it practically. If we're talking about 30 channels got flagged, I mean, how many videos would you have to watch to make a determination? If it's 3, right, then they're going to sit there and watch 3 videos. How many channels did they decide were okay? I mean, just think about the man hours involved.
Yeah,
it's just that's not the way they would do it, and they would only attack a tiny portion. Now, if they're tasked with doing that and they build a little machine, little computer robot that goes out and does something like what Clover's saying, I don't have to repeat everything you just said. Then then they come back and tally the results. Yeah, that's what that team determined. But I really don't think that anybody's sitting there watching videos. And when you got a giant platform, we talk about it's valid to be on this platform because it's the second biggest search engine and there's all these people. Well, there's a balance, and the balance is it's anonymous. One of the balances is anonymous. Another balance is it's huge. So you don't get a chance unless even when you're huge on the huge thing, you don't necessarily get any kind of special attention. Some people can, I suppose, but we're talking platform with pretty much a majority of the planet on it. Sometimes you gotta, I don't know, there's ways to deal with it, but I think what Clover just said was valid, that you just got to learn the system and figure out whatever it might be that triggered it, either work with it or start over or decide it's not worth it. And
here's the crappy thing about that, right? If you're gonna complain and gripe about anything, gripe about what I see other niches griping about, right? Because I see the gun niche always gripes that it's bias and they're against all the gun people and they're anti-Second Amendment, and that's what they always holler. The conservatives holler that too. They go, "Oh, it's all the Christian conservatives and they're out to just kill conservatism and blah 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 blah." But then you look at these other niches. You look at the tech channels that get hit, the makeup channels that get hit. You look at the travel channels that get hit, car channels, whatever it might be, and it doesn't seem like they have the outcry in those niches that the seemingly right, because I guess, pro gun could also coincide with, the right a little bit. Um, it just seems like there's not the outrage there, and what they are calling for when they are crying out is tell us what we have to do, right? Be clear, be transparent. Say, look, you can't do X, Y, and Z. Don't leave all this open-ended garbage out there. And then when something gets tagged or hit or whatever, that is not it's black and white at that point. You file an appeal, right? You say, hey, this there's nothing in the policy that this violates. You file an appeal, and guess what? It's released because the policy, everything there is black and white. And what they did here, which is crazy, is a whole different. They're bringing into play a whole different other set of policy that I can guarantee you 90 something percent of people have not sat down and read through. I haven't read through it in a year at least myself. Sorry, Giz. I didn't mean to giz you.
Oh, you're all right. Yeah, I'm not real sure. Not real sure what to add to this discussion. I sit here and think about how long it's taken me. I just finally got to 500 subs this evening, and that's been like a year and a half's worth of work. And, you know, if I ever get to the point of being monetized and then it could all go away, just, you don't know why. I understand why people are frantic about it.
Well, keep in mind too, Gizzard, here's the thing. If you're building a loyal, committed audience, right? As you grow, you're not going through and having the viral explosion video that ends up getting you 20,000 subs in a week or something, right? You're getting people that probably value your content. You're getting people that probably enjoy your content. You're getting people that that obviously, or they wouldn't subscribe or follow or whatever, that like what you're doing. And odds are those people are going to be willing to support you in some fashion or another, be that on Patreon or be that simply through sharing to this is why we talk about sharing and all of that being so huge. Yeah, I get it. Maybe you don't have money to support these channels on Patreon. Gizzard, Ghost, myself, G-Webs. Does Obnoxious have one out there? I don't know if he does or not. I know Midnight Range TM does, so forth and so on. I get it. It's like I was talking about earlier. People have their lives. They go to work. They've got the food on the table. I get you. But if you've got time to watch these videos, if you've got time to watch these live streams, you've got time to click that share button below. And what's interesting about that is by doing that, you could bring somebody on board to that channel that is then willing to kick in, like G-Web says, a cup of coffee or something like that. And with the way that YouTube has been going lately anyway, it appears less and less and less, it seems like every day, every week, every month, every year, that YouTube wants to pay anybody anything anymore. And it would not surprise me if in the next, I'm going to throw out a number of 3 years, that YouTube as we know it and have known it, where they even offer the creator any type of ad revenue, is going to go bye-bye. They may keep the super chat in play because that is more of a user generated revenue stream, right? So they can still dip their toes into that little honey pot at 40-45%, whatever it is, because of these big guys that live stream and or whatever. Like for example, Liberty Doll and her first one, no telling how much money she made for YouTube, right?
It was her birthday, but I don't see super chats, even the most popular super chats, paying for themselves. That's massive tech, and I bet you that's a massive loss to the big YouTube, the live stuff, everything happening over here. I don't see super chat trying to nibble back some of that cost. But
Maybe.
I mean, I don't know if they even make that publicly available. But I'd be surprised if this whole piece, this live stuff, isn't a massive loss for YouTube in general.
Right. Well, maybe, but I mean, if they lose, if they get away from the whole shared advertising model completely, and they say, okay, we're getting away from that, but now we're going to give you whatever. We're going to give you 60% instead of 50% of, you know, yours, whatever you can join a channel now, which I don't remember. I don't know. It's like you can become a channel member or something now, which is similar to Patreon on YouTube. And then you've got super chat. So maybe they lower the percentage somehow on that to sort of make people feel better. And I don't know. I mean, if they're not dishing out big bunches of money for advertising, you know, I don't know. Now, will you still see advertising? You probably will, because you've got to realize that a lot of the larger channels, and we're not talking again, we got to get out of this mentality of gun channels, because a lot of gun channels, they don't understand how to do it. But when you get into large channels, they have their own advertisers. They do their own. They have their own advertising team. They do their own ad sales and stuff. YouTube is not handling that stuff for them. And so when I say that YouTube is pulling out, trying to whittle back and maybe pull out of the whole shared advertising thing, I'm not saying that you can't still play that advertising game, at least that the big channels can't, right? And so the big channels won't leave because it doesn't matter to them anymore at that point.
I've also heard, I don't know if it's valid or not, but I've heard that YouTube has lost a lot of advertisers. So I wonder if companies aren't spending as much money through YouTube for advertising,
They're not.
if that's one of the reasons why they're demonetizing some of these channels, because they're trying to save as much money as they can. I don't know.
Well, and it's got to where YouTube gets such a black eye with the stuff that goes on. Regardless, I mean, I guess it started with the whole PewDiePie thing, a couple of years ago. But it seems like it's every few months. It's something else. Like I said, it came out yesterday, day before yesterday. I don't remember. Maybe yesterday, about this big, huge gamer channel, and all the controversy and what's going on and all that. And like I said, I don't really feel comfortable talking about all that live. Somebody can certainly email me, or we can talk off air about it. But you know, with some of the craziness that was going on with this guy's channel, where advertisers see that and they're like, "Whoa, wait a minute! You know, this guy's doing what?" And and you're putting our ads up there. So I mean, from an advertiser standpoint, I get it. I totally get it. But you know, how do you regulate? You know, I don't know. How do you regulate's not the word. How do you reconcile, right? How do you reconcile that? How do you reconcile, okay, you got a platform and we allow anybody to do anything, and we don't care if they're degenerates, or, you know, we don't care if it's just nothing but solid profanity. We don't care if it's, you know, what it is, right? And then you bring advertisers in. Well, it don't work like that. You know, your advertisers, this is when we talk about the full 30s and the gun streamers and the stuff like that, they're pulling in industry advertisers, right? So, you know, you've got that targeted audience sort of there, and you're pulling in, you know, industry people from that targeted audience. Well, when you've got this big, huge ocean that is YouTube, with all of this stuff running around, sure, you've got algorithms and you've got AdSense set up to where, you know, the advertisers can customize, and they can cater their advertising to certain pools of video categories and stuff like that. But it's so huge that inevitably things are going to slip through the cracks. And when they do, especially when you get media coverage and all of that going on with some of the nonsense that goes on YouTube, then all YouTubers, quote unquote, get a black eye, in the sense that the advertisers just don't take it seriously. They're like, okay, these guys aren't serious, so we're going to go put our money somewhere else. Bye.
Right, so you have organizations out there. USCCA started out as a website. It was a membership website. You had to pay a couple of bucks a month or a year, and there was content available. And then that grew to a publication, and then now, more elaborate. Is that a model to do something? It's one of the. I mean, I guess I'm thinking in the realm of Second Amendment advocacy. One of the organizations creates more of a social platform, allows people to communicate there, use YouTube as more of the tool to post the videos and have them out there, but less consequence because people aren't placing their projects from YouTube outward.
Possibly. I don't know that I grasp the entire concept. Can you give a little more detail on what you mean?
Well, like gun channels, right? If I was trying to do gun channels, when we originally built gun channels, it was to create a place where we could have this conversation that was away from the anonymous portion of YouTube, and just to keep the conversation more civil and more on track, because it was getting distracted or worse from just people coming by and being weird. Now, I'm not talking archiving stuff in front of the second biggest search engine. There's always that concept that I'm not talking about. I'm just talking about the live, I guess, or the development of channels or projects. But anyway, when we broke gun channels originally, we didn't really have a goal in mind. But if our goal would have been to build a Facebook of guns instead of just a place to have conversation. But if we wanted to build it as a platform where you could post pictures and video and all the rest, an emulation of Facebook, and then all kinds of industry and community resources behind it, something like that. Now, I'm not doing that, so I'm not suggesting Gun Channel's going to do that, but there's the potential for someone to see that that's an potential, and either a gun streamer, which I don't see having the resources right now, or like an FPC or maybe a Gun Owners America, who are got the resources for sure, and then potentially see the potential of that. I don't know if they see the potential of that or not, but they probably be the two closest large groups that would have that awareness and then that desire to create a place, and they'd have the reputation and the whatever to be the best potential to be successful at something like that. And then anyway, to build a place where conversation happens, and again, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook become more places you put your pictures and less the place we depend on to have our conversations. Because I see that as the biggest problem when you're talking about monetization. If someone's doing it for money, or they consider that some kind of gauge of success, and they see that that's taken away or they don't get that success, then they leave in frustration, and that's the worst result, is that we lose players from our side. We lose people with whatever flavor and whatever voice they had, we lose them. So I'm wondering if a solution isn't to create a stronger place off any platform that's just a place for 2A to gather and then use as a framework to grow to the other platforms, so we can have our influence on those other platforms but not depend on them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. The question with all of that is, how do you gather that audience, right? Because we talk about YouTube and the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and those are really, really big oceans and lakes to fish in, right?
But what are
I mean, it's cool to I see the okay, you've got your pond, and so you go to these big lakes and you catch all these nice fish, and you put them in the live well, and you turn them loose in your pond, and eventually that breeds, and you grow from within your pond. But to get that going, you have to have a certain and the fish analogy is really good, because you put the wrong kind of fish, and some fish eat the other fish and things like that. So you got to be real careful how you cultivate things in the beginning, I guess. But there's some hurdles. I mean, it definitely is a viable idea. but I think there's some hurdles, and I don't think those hurdles have necessarily been given as much attention with some of the projects we see currently going on as probably they should have.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand, I guess, because I mean, I see it as a shift in focus. I don't know if that's the right word, but to address the question when you're talking about again that the concept of being the second biggest search engine and so many people, there's advantages to that. So I definitely acknowledge it as a tool. However, what do you catch when you're over there? Being as attractive as you possibly can be to their logarithm so that you work within the system to be as successful as possible, and then assuming you have something clever in your content that is worth watching, so you can be searchable and not be interesting, right? So you accomplish both of those. What do you end up with? If we look at what exists today, the largest channels are a bunch of whatever they are, right? So I guess the alternative to that would be the alternative to large numbers of a big question mark as to what those large numbers are would be the old-fashioned way, I guess you could say, of before the internet, the way that we're about to come up on the anniversary of the 77 revolt, the NRA revolt. That was all done with newsletters and phone calls, done word of mouth. And, there's that concept of instead of playing YouTube's game and dealing with, their abuse and, coddling or adjusting to their demands and their kind of blanket things that we're dealing with, to not play with their rules and to go reach for people to gather content and to appreciate content from places like gun shops and gun shows and word of mouth, and encourage, and instead of like, share, subscribe, go out and tell somebody about what we're doing here. Go out and buy my book. Go out and buy the sticker off of me to support the channel, and then stick that sticker someplace and take a picture of it, so that maybe just be more creative in what do you call, like, real relationship type of outreach. And then what you gather is a smaller number, but a much more useful group of people to have conversation with, because you're all on the same thing. And then when there's time to motivate, boom, we're all a bunch of people. We might only have 30,000, but those are 30,000 who are writing a letter that afternoon, and not 3 million who hear a video about it and assume 299 million other people are going to do it, and accomplish nothing with if they even, well, as big channels, we should backpedal all that stuff anyway.
Right. And I guess I sort of get what you're saying now a little bit, because we've got a lot of different platforms at our disposal, obviously.
And isn't it to our detriment if we can continually focus on anyone? I mean, whatever you pick is the big one. Me, I hate Facebook just because it's one of the reasons I hate it. I don't even know if I can use the word describe it, but because I don't foster using it. It's just a shitty thing. Yeah. So same thing with YouTube. I'd love to say the same thing about YouTube, but I want to be realistic. You can't put videos anywhere else yet and get reach or whatever. But as soon as we can, we'll leave it behind. But yeah, I guess that's the thing, is so that we're not beholden to any one platform. So as we bring new people on board, I'm thinking some guy at the gun shop, or some guy at the thing, or some gal at work, and you bring her on board. She's not like, oh, YouTube channel. I mean, so many people identify as a YouTube channel. Like, that's the worst thing you can do, right? Like, I'm a creator of content. I do stuff on the internet. And here's where you find me. And then, you're educating, empowering a new viewer, and you're not like, hey, guess what? Go to Facebook and start, getting programmed into their whole way of doing things. And I'm there, or go to YouTube and do their thing. And I'm there. I guess that's my thing. Go ahead. I cut you off.
No, I mean, you were fine. I was just saying, I understand. I think part of what you were getting at is because even across all of these platforms, there is, probably the best as far as, gun channels is probably the best as far as the back and forth, the conversations, the engagement. Second to that, I would say is Patreon, for that. But even with that, it's not as close knit, as tight, or as good of a conversation as it could potentially be, right? I mean, we still haven't seen, I don't think, the pinnacle of platforms yet when it comes to ultimate engagement. And that's one thing that kind of keeps me going. I mean, I keep looking for that on the horizon, which, where's that at? Where's it coming from? What's it going to be? Because that's one thing that I've seen that's been lacking for some time in this digital space.
Yeah. Are you done? I don't know if you paused there. Or...
Yeah, no, I'm done with that for the
I
time being.
think it's weird and frustrating part too, because Instagram kind of happened, and then before you knew it, it was a thing, and it's awesome, right? It's useful, but then where's the next one? Like everybody was already in Instagram and Twitter and then Instagram won, where it was the most interesting platform and succeeded. I don't know where the next one is because nobody's jumping to an and yet, and I suspect we're gonna see waves or something, or some kind of pattern over time, and we're sitting in some kind of a stagnant part waiting for something to come along. They're either new tech or whatever, I suppose. But unfortunately, yeah, I agree with you there. We're looking for, well, I don't know if there'll ever be a pinnacle, but there'll certainly be another one. I mean, right? YouTube isn't going to be there all there ever was. It's not going to end with YouTube. So you guys are chatting in the YouTube side about, I'm not really sure, because I'm not reading every single one. You guys are writing big comments, long comments, but we're not together, I guess.
We're engaged, man. We're engaged.
No, that's great. I'm just saying, it seems like they're all kind of, about whether or not we're together as a community. And I think no one has ever been together as a whole community. I mean, I can't think of almost anything, even places I've worked that had multiple offices. And even if you're in the same office, different groups in the office, even families, you have little, different groups or cliques or whatever. Like, so there's always going to be facets and stuff. Focusing on the divisions gets you nowhere, but thinking about the connections is how you succeed, right? I think, playing with Clover's idea of the bridges, that's where maybe, instead of trying to come up with an ultimate platform, or even as I was describing something like that, a place that's pro 2A that you could bring people to then say, here's all the stuff that's out there. That's not ideal, because then that depends on that existing. So maybe the better way is just to empower everybody, ideally, with the idea that there's lots of stuff on the internet, and this is the way you can find it, and it'll keep changing. But for now, here's the big places, and here's how you find it, and here's how you can help them.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to talking about grouping together, and we talked about this a lot of times, is and we're talking 2A thing. People that are anti-gun, they already look at our community to a certain extent as being the conspiracy theorists and the paranoid. Why do you carry a gun? You're paranoid. You don't need to carry a gun. You guys are just paranoid. They use that word paranoid a lot. And coming together is one thing, but kind of separating ourselves from everybody else, saying, let's just go do our own thing. It becomes a huge echo chamber. But, we don't want to feed the rhetoric of being the paranoid conspiracy theorists of YouTube, because if they think that, they're just coming after us, and we're going to break away and secede from the union type thing and all of that stuff, that just kind of proves their rhetoric. So I think that's dangerous to go down that road as well.
Oh yeah, and I don't mean by any means to alienate or leave a platform, as much as like quit depending on the platforms to be the source of either funding or support or viewers, because I question whether the viewers are worth anything. I have 160,000 subs. I lose 250 either a month or a week, I forget. But every time I go into my analytics, I lose 250 of them. So I've got a lot, and I get 100 views on a video if I'm lucky. I put out stuff that isn't of interest to the equation on YouTube anymore. I did back in the day, and I succeeded with it or whatever. So I'm just questioning the number, those numbers, what they're good for. If you've got 160,000 subs and you can't say gun rights policy conference has empty seats, or on this Saturday there's going to be a room when, if you want to have any influence at all as an NRA member, be in that room at 10 a.m. If you can't say to 160,000 people and affect something that goes on in that room, then that's not 160,000 people that are worth anything, right? Those are just 160,000 people that at one time clicked on something they found humorous or interesting, could have been years ago. So that's all I guess I'm saying, is that instead of using the platforms as a indicator of anything, success or anything, instead to create a platform where we support each other. I mean, very much what we're doing at Gun Channels, I guess. It's just that, like I say, I don't have the wherewithal, the funding, the resources, the inclination. Honestly, I just, I'm willing to create something and support it. I just can't do the day to day. I just don't have that in me. But anyway, something like a Gun Channels where people have your back and you get funded through direct support of individuals who understand and appreciate what content's being created. But then you take that funding and you take that support and you do what you're good at. Go out and kill YouTube. I shouldn't say it like that. Go out and attack YouTube in a way that dominates the message over there. Do the same on Instagram. But instead of being reliant on the platforms and their stupid equations for success, if our message is to get the word out there, the ears that care, and not just to a number of ears. I mean, sometimes it's great to get out to a number of ears, but when it's important and we want to get to ears that matter, ears that are going to have hands on the other end of it that do stuff, go places and make phone calls and make appointments with legislatures, then using those platforms, and if a channel gets shut down, you can just come back on with another channel, use the very nature of the anonymous giant platform against it. Then it matters less to the individual creators or to the message as a whole. I think if a single channel gets demonetized or demoralized or defunded or whatever YouTube does to it. But
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. I think, places like Gun Channels, the gun streamers, the full 30s, they're, and we're not even talking about the Reddit communities, which those are massive communities within themselves. There's a lot of groups on Facebook that are, little small collection of pro-gun people, and we have to utilize those to kind of rally our troops. But like you said, take the support from those communities like Gun Channels and all of that, and then, like you said, go kill it over on the big platforms. And the reason why, in my opinion, and I say this a lot, but the reason why, in my opinion, that YouTube and Instagram and even Facebook are important is that, at least my goals, and it has to be individually what your goals and purposes are for your channel, your projects. But if your goals are to bring more people to the community, then you've got to go where those people are. And going to Full 30 and going to Gunstream and all that, well, that is the ultimate echo chamber. That's the only people that go there are going to be gun people. So you're really not bringing new people to the community through those. Now, what you can do is, once you bring them in from Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or whatever, then you bring them to the gun channels of the world, the gun streamers of the world, these communities that are within the community. But I think that, there's people out there who are saying that we should just leave YouTube, and I've been harping on this for a year, and for more than that. But leaving YouTube is not the answer. You just got to play the game, bring the people in, and then bring them to your individual communities like Gun Channels.
Gary, how do you solve this?
How do you solve it? I don't know. You got to keep playing the game. You can't withdraw yourself from the game or you don't get anywhere. I got to keep going on, figuring out what the rules are and playing within them the best as you can. Obviously, YouTube isn't going to change their rules because we don't like it. I wish I had a better answer, but I don't. I mean, it's their ball game. And I know they're not being equitable, or they don't seem like they're being equitable with the way they're handing out punishments and stuff like that. But, short of suing them, which none of us can afford to do, obviously, I'm not real sure what you do.
So something about that made me think, do we know how many gun channels there are? Do we have some kind of estimate?
I have no idea.
Gotta be literally
I
that.
don't even
What was the
know if there's
question?
even a way to find that number out, honestly.
How many
Well-
gun channels there might be on on YouTube?
Oh, it's in the best estimate that I've got figured. I mean, it's in the tens of thousands that deal with the Second Amendment or firearms in some way.
Really?
There's some crossover there, but yeah.
Would you guys have said that high?
I wouldn't have guessed that many.
Yeah, I would have guessed around 10,000 somewhere in there. Sure.
It's not in the high five figures. I'm not saying tens of thousands, but yeah, it's in the, when I say tens, I mean like between 10 and probably 20,000.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have any idea either, but I would think it's definitely thousands. And I guess it depends, like you say, when we call it a channel. Some of us are large enough that we don't talk about
Well,
today. It's not our
If you think about it, that's why I said there's a lot of crossover. You've got a lot of manufacturers that have channels. You go there and there's like 5 videos from 3 years ago.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So when you
Well,
talk
that-
active, there's way less than that.
Yeah, let's say like active, like at a level where they're worth a shit, and Patreon level. Like there's something to do. There's something to support them. They're doing something that's worth supporting, and there's probably enough audience that they could get supported.
There's literally a few thousand probably that meet that criteria.
What do you guys think? Same thing? Let's say 5,000.
I would say about 5,000. Sure. Yeah.
I would say 5 to 8.
Sounds right.
Wow, that seems like a lot still. But all right, let's say 5,000. I was just wondering, like, if we had 5,000 individuals, people that were like, hey, this sounds like a novel idea. What would they need to, I mean, I guess if we have 5,000 creators, how many people would we need to think or to be aware of a concept that like, hey, if we supported these 5,000 creators, to the point, to let's say $20 a month, this would happen. So in other words, if we had, there's some math here. We have a known number. We have the 5,000 creators, and we have this $20 a month concept. And if they're going to give $2 to each creator, so that each supporter would be able to support, that would be 10 channels. How many supporters are we looking at? Where's Smeggy? Is everybody with me on that math?
No.
All right, so I'll try to do it again here. Oop, I'm bringing up the keyboard and not the calculator.
Let me bring out the abacus real quick.
I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing. So here's what I'm saying. If we have 5,000 channels, right? And we're looking for how many supporters we're going to need to support those 5,000 channels. And I said each supporter is going to support 10 channels. We go 5,000, and we divide that by 10. And that gives us 500 supporters. If 500 supporters offered $20 a month, then that would give 5,000 creators $1. So just change one of the variables and you figure out, what does a channel need? They probably need more than $1, right? I'm just trying to figure it out. There's a finite number, in other words, of supporters that it would be required to support in the number of 5,000 channels on YouTube.
Well, let's take that number. You say there's 500 supporters. If they're giving
$20 a month.
$20 a month. So let's say it's per channel. It's $1, right?
I was doing $dollars per channel. Yeah. So that those 500 would each be given, basically $2,000 a month to those 5,000 supporters. So they each get $2. So you'd have to have significantly more than 500. So let's say you had 5,000 people in the world that thought this was a clever idea. Those 5,000, and I'm just going backwards with the numbers. If I take this 5,000 supporters that are going to offer $20 a month, you encourage 5,000 people to put $20 a month into a pool. That's $100,000. And if we are talking 5,000 creators, you take that $100,000 and you divide it by 5,000, and that's $20 per creator. So yeah, that wouldn't work out very well. Oh,
Well, but you're also looking at it this way. Let's just say that if you've got 500 people, they're going to pick channels, okay? And they're going to give $1 to each channel, just $1. I think that I would say, and for me, if I got $1 for 500 people, I got $500 a month on Patreon. That would be tremendous for the vast majority of channels. Getting $500 a month from Patreon, even at $1 from 500 people, that's a massive amount of people. $500 a month can go a long way. So
yeah, I guess I was thinking trying to get something. I was just trying to do some
oh, I see. Oh, I know what you're saying. Absolutely, yeah.
figure, like, if we could, motivate whatever thousands of people to go, hey, look what happens if you did this. And then if maybe it was just a one-time thing, like what if you just encouraged a bunch of people, here's a campaign, $2 for 2A, throw it in this pile, and then it gets equally distributed amongst all these people. Let's see how much we can raise. Just stuff like that gets people into the idea. I don't think I suspect if you went to a gun show and said, do you know you could give $20 a month to somebody who fights for 2A? They, at least what we're talking about here, that's alien. It's not in their mindset yet. And I think there's untapped. Think about all the people that go to a gun show. That's just people that go to the gun show. Think about all the people that go to those gun shops out there, and they're reading books, that listen to the radio.
Well,
I think that. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is, what if there was a medium of some sort? What if there was let's just use Arson Tony's 2A fund, for example. What if there was a medium that you could push, and then people could come into that, let's say, organization or whatever, right? And so they give $5 a month or whatever it is to the 2A fund, knowing that the 2A fund goes to obviously push forward 2A efforts, right? So 2A fund has a tier, not necessarily a tier level, but some type of a thing to where they may not feel comfortable going on creating a Patreon. It may be a situation where it's they don't want to set up a PayPal, whatever the case may be. So they pay into something like, and I'm not trying to put 2A fund and Arson Tony on the spot, just using it as an example. But what if they paid into a place, and then that place then disseminated things out from there?
There you go.
That, okay, we've got 100 people paying $5 a month. We got $500 a month we can now spend on Patreon. So then they go on, and it's kind of like the Adopt a Child in Africa or something, right? And then the 2A fund or whoever it is could send a newsletter out to those people and go, here are the channels you're supporting with your money, and it's a collective effort. In other words, those people feel as though they're supporting 100 different channels instead of just one.
Stop. You did like 100 freaking awesome ideas right there. So yeah, so definitely, like, that's what I was thinking about, except you said it all in a nutshell, I think. So the idea that the 2A fund, right, is exactly what I was thinking. I guess I wasn't thinking of it because Art and Tony ain't in here saying stuff. But yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about, is that you get a bunch of people with the idea that they can throw $2, $5, $20, whatever they care about, at this fund, and then it creates supporters. It supports creation of stuff on the other end. So yeah, that's definitely more towards what I was thinking. And then I guess, and then I'm thinking that as opposed to trying to do whatever people do on YouTube to try to get, play the game on YouTube. There's all different ways to play the game on YouTube, but for the most part, you're playing it within their dumb rules. And that affects your content. And you have to edit and censor your content to some extent, in order to play by their rules, so that you stay in their good favor, right? But if we had multiple content creators funded by something like a 2A fund, so I guess from that 2A fund, let's say Tony's successful with that for years to come, we hope he is, right? And as he grows, it's too much of a number. Let's say it's thousands of dollars a month. Let's say he's got $5,000. People think this is a worthy effort. They're contributing to the tune of $5,000 a month. At that point, Tony's going to have not just one project a month. He'd probably do, I've got $250 going out to this guy. I've got $400 going out to this guy, $1,000 going out to this organization. He's going to have some sort of a format for it. But, he'll be able to support content creators. So I guess, in a way it's like a Patreon, but instead of being Patreon with all of its tools and whatnot, and the need to go to an individual creator and contribute and then go to another one. So you have to go find them all. It's sort of like a mutual fund of 2A projects. You go to 2A fund, you drop $20, thousands of people do that. All of a sudden, Tony is funding projects that, either he or a committee or however he decides to do it. And that's what I guess I was thinking about. And yeah, thanks for summing that up. But now you just said, think of it like the feeding the kids in Africa type of campaign, or like, you see them for all different kinds of things, whatever the charity or whatever the drive might be, that idea of a coin slot thing at the gun shop. And if you had the 2A fund and people go, what's this 2A fund all about? And you've got a little bit of marketing on there that explains this is like a way to show cool gun content that, eliminates the need for people to be beholden to the platforms. However you concisely say that to people who don't know the jargon of art that we use, right? But you get the idea across that this is how you support the creation of valid 2A content. Throw some change in here. That change gets accumulated in like a telethon or something, gets added to the 2A fund. That gets the word out. That gets people to the idea of like, oh, I can throw a couple of bucks in here. And as people start valuing that content, it's a self like sustaining thing. People realize that by throwing change in there, now you get people throwing change in there. People are like, why are you throwing your change in there? Oh, you don't watch these guys? And every video is telling people throw your change at your local gun shop. That gets people to the local gun shop. Oh, I'm thinking we got to get a 2A fund bucket in gun shops now. I think we just fixed the 2A fund right now.
I think we need to talk to Tony first, but yeah.
That's inconsequential.
Right.
What happens at night? More valid than that.
Well, I think also there's something to be said about, excuse me, what you did with the 2A patch batch and the overwhelming support of thousands of dollars that was raised. And sure, are they getting a cool patch set? Absolutely. But I think the vast majority of people that contributed to the patch batch was there because they had a centralized way to support channels. Now, were we getting money from that? No, but we got patches, which is support. That helps us. So there's proof that people are willing to support efforts. So it's interesting, the concept. I like it.
Oh, did you say something about Yankees patch being made?
Sure. There it is right there.
So they're all robots. We weren't sure if they were going to do some of the more complicated things by slave labor, but nope, all robots. This one's neat because look, now they're squirting the chocolate color on top of the word perfection right there. And see how it's like only two little stripes? I guess it's going to flow later or something.
Yeah, that it will
unless that's
ooze into the crevices.
I guess. I was thinking maybe that's supposed to be like a molten color. I don't really remember from the pattern anymore. But, he's got kind of like a camo on. Like maybe that's the way they do the camo. But nah, see, it does kind of ooze in there already. And I guess it doesn't have to color the behind the white. But anyway, it's kind of neat to watch. It's some of the funner ones, where there's like Tony's rifle. When you watch the video, like the sling, they barely touch it at the front and the back of the sling, and then as it's jumping all around doing the next one, that the stuff fills in the sling, and then on somebody's it fills in the trigger guard. Is that Night Strike? Anyway, just got these in the other day, or yesterday, I guess.
Well,
Have you gotten most of the patches?
No, still waiting on 5 of them. So seems to be all the complicated ones came last. Maybe they took more time to program.
No, that looks like a pretty big patch. Would you say the dimensions of Yankees were?
I don't remember. Should be I wanted it to be sizable, but it's not like obnoxious or anything. Not like
You
it's
know,
8 inches
it looks
long.
like a Christmassy Kool-Aid guy is what it looks like. It looks Christmassy.
Yeah, it's the Glock Kool-Aid guy. It's Glock Kool-Aid guy, and he
Right.
has a shirt on that says perfection.
Yeah. Just the color scheme looks like it's Christmassy.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be camo, so I'm guessing because it'll probably get squirted black or something on the outside, maybe it'll darken it up. Because whatever it'll be black, right? Because whatever we don't see will be the last color, like the final color, right? That'll dig down to the final color. So I bet you it'll just be like a black background that'll darken the whole thing up. Because these are a bunch of grays probably on top.
Yeah. I tell you what, Adam Jimenez out there has an interesting concept about getting corporations involved in this funding, like let's say through the 2A fund. But what he's saying is if you donate X amount of dollars to these channels, then you'll get X amount of people doing your reviews. That's an interesting concept about getting corporations involved in this as well.
No, yeah, I like that whole concept because then again, you can, they want to, what do they call it? Like virtue signal. Like, oh, we care about the second. They can be like, look how big a contributor we are to 2A fund.
Exactly.
I posted this on Instagram right when you guys went live. This one's neat because they do the red and then the pink and then that goofy yellow color or whatever color it is. So this is the only one we've got so far that does all like those 3 different colors. But it finishes that guy and this guy in red. And then it's going to go around and do all of them in pink, like some second color pink. And then it'll go in and start doing yellow on that last one. Kind of neat.
Is that Utah's?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, they're talking about shills out there again, and that's just shill is becoming the secondary word that I hate behind FUD, and
Yep.
so it's whatever.
Neither
Let's not go that road.
neither are thrown around in the correct context like ever. So,
Right.
So you
I don't
donate.
know
My,
what
my
the
whole thing.
I like the idea. I mean, we definitely when's in the next um well, we don't know if Artisan Tony's going to get on. I may have to just call him or get with him more because I really like the idea. And my local gun shop is actually having a open house, whatever, grand reopening from the remodel or whatever thing this weekend, and they wanted me to come and cover some stuff. And I was talking with Ghost earlier. I'm actually going to do a kind of a man on the street type thing. I'm going to set up a camera and just do some little rapid fire, just little quick, easy questions on what the Second Amendment means to them and what Second Amendment organizations they support and their favorite firearm and how long have they been a firearm owner, that type of thing. Um, and so with all of that, I mean, I've got time. I could certainly get something together to be able to get, on the calendar there and started during that process and maybe even give a little presentation at some point about what it's all about. Um, so yeah, I'm really psyched about that idea. I do like that. Um, the I'm not real sure what AJ out there was talking about with they get X amount of people to review their product. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where the facilitation and how that works as far as all of that coming into play. Um, I don't
Well,
know.
of money to 2A fund, they'll sit there and say, I will donate 6 pieces of equipment that my company sells. And at that point, 2A Fund or whoever it is will sit there and say, okay, well, these are, drop-in triggers for ARs. Okay. And which one of these channels and all that like to do reviews for AR-15 platforms or whatever. And then they could say, okay, they're going to send us 5 triggers. Let's send them out to these 5 channels. So it may not be a monetary dollar amount these companies do. Maybe they donate product to get to channels that are looking to get more content, something like that, maybe.
Well, and I mean, it could go as far as
I think that's go ahead.
no, go ahead, G.
I think that's a little different than with 2A Fund or what we're talking about with like, creating content that is outside the parameters of what makes money on the YouTube game. Because if you're talking like however you want to say play to pay or pay to play or, in the big pocket or whatever you want to call it, like when you are working with a company to, to report on their stuff and give reviews of their stuff, like that's something that already is no matter what, YouTube, Instagram, anything, whatever the platform, that's already an existing fundraising platform. So if someone's got a project, I mean, you can think of a bunch of them off the top of your head, successful projects where, they have a system like that where they either get product or, they review product and have some kind of code somewhere, and they lay those down on all the different platforms. Those are people that have existing revenue sources. I guess what I was thinking is for the channels that are outside that realm, for example, a channel that we were talking about history before, one of these history channels that unless they have a Patreon, if they're talking about stuff that gets dinked because of their wording or because of the words they use on the platforms, so they don't get funded through the platform. And even if they did, the platform funding wouldn't be all that great unless they were really tremendously successful. This would allow funding for a valuable or worthwhile project that isn't, doing whatever the existing kind of funding, I don't want to say scheme, but like funding whatever dynamic that already is out there. Or like if you got funded by like a gun shop, some channels just work with gun shops. I did for a long time. That's an excellent way to get content and get knowledge and insight and then still be doing something useful for the person that is offering you all the resources. Like that's another way that people can already be funded. But I guess the beginning of all this, when we were chatting about just the idea of having a bunch of channels together, that part of it, no matter how you're funded, having some camaraderie or whatever is useful, and just to allow your channel to be interesting and give you something more to talk about than just whatever it is you do day to day.
No, sure. The community itself is what makes it, and those of us that are a part of this Gun Channels family value and understand the value of that brotherhood of no matter what you do, you're going to have that core support group that's there to help you support it. And what I was going to go back to with the product is, Clover and I are even, we're into the position now that we are getting sent stuff from these companies, but we're talking about, maybe channels that are 100, 200, 300 subs that may not have the access to getting some of the product to review that might be doing really good work. They just don't have, they're not big enough yet to have access. What if there was a middleman to facilitate companies saying, hey, I don't really want to give you money every month, but I could give you product every month, and then you distribute it to these channels that may need it that don't have access. Clover and I probably wouldn't want to be involved with that because there are other channels that don't have access to the companies that we do, and it's like you do or Travis or these other channels do. But to help facilitate some of these smaller channels to get them product to do reviews on, that might help boost their channels just by having those products. So, I'm gonna say I don't know how it would work. I just think it's an interesting concept that there might be some companies that are willing to donate product instead of money. I don't know.
Don't put words in my mouth. I want it all because I'm greedy like that.
Well, that's true.
Patriot saying stopping by to say hey. The that concept I think is 100% valid. I was just saying that the funding thing or whatever I would say is separate, or I would say is not. I wouldn't want to bring that whole like trade for
Yeah,
product
sure.
because it's just too hard to divide all that. But as far as that project goes, I think there's massive potential there. Honestly, there's lots of ways. When you're a manufacturer, you've got product that's blemished, and you got product that you already just a lot of them will have a budget for whatever you want to call T&E. Like they know that they're going to have extra of their product that they're going to make specifically to get the word out about their product, right? They know that some of that's going out the door. So a group of people working together, comparing themselves to one successful channel is very appealing, I would think. So you could be in the running right away with a group of people that were um, united like that, working together on rotating product around themselves or amongst themselves to get multiple reviews out. And then you've got, um, uh, uh, well, there's a couple of different ways that that would be good. Drawing a blank on what I was thinking for the second one. But manufacturers giving out stuff like that to multiple people, I think is super worthy. And you could either start a new kind of a club type of a thing, or do it through something existing like a gun channels or one of the groups or pages on one of those places.
Like a gear report or something like that to some extent, where there's already kind of solidified in that kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah, because then you've already got people who are already kind of like tuned in to doing reports and gear reports on gear, and you know, I guess on some sort of a schedule, time frame, or whatever. They can incorporate it into there. But yeah, I don't know if they've already got something like that going, but I mean, there's enough. All you have to do is know two or three people and take some amount of stuff that you already have and start passing it around. Now you've got a reputation and a resume of this concept, and then you just start taking that to people. You guys mentioned, for the people that don't yet have contacts, you guys didn't wave any magic wands. You didn't have like a little extra key to a new club or something. You just go start asking people, how do I get some of your product to review? And eventually they start giving you product to review. It's like there's no magic to it. So anybody can do it. But yeah, working as a team, I would think that could be a potential really neat project where you just have a bunch of gear in a pool and yeah, pass it around. I can tell you stories about our, uh, yes, experiment with that. I guess would be a way to say it.
Yeah, that could be just. I mean, that could be really, really cool. Just to, you get a bunch of companies that send product and start distributing it to channels that maybe specialize that or have knowledge of that, or hell, even to channels that don't have any experience in that. Because what's a better review than someone that has no experience? They're actually learning because of this product. So, I mean, there's all sorts of things you could play into that. I just thought it was an interesting concept.
Yeah, I'm not on my big channel, but on the big channel years ago, I don't remember if I can figure out when. It was probably after 2012. Maybe not. Maybe it was 2011. Maybe it was before we drove around. So at some point, I basically started out doing YouTube stuff, right? Here's a little story. Everybody can get a cup of hot chocolate. I'm going to tell you about the olden days. So I started out the YouTube just to have a place to post videos, right? I didn't have any intention of becoming a YouTube channel because there was no such thing as a YouTube channel yet. Then at some point they had partners, right? And you could become a partner and then you can get paid. I like the whole idea of getting paid to do nothing, right? So went to do the partner thing, or I started working to put more videos up or whatever to achieve that partner level or whatever. So okay, so we get to where there's partners and there starts to be a little bit of a community. So I got two things going on. One, as soon as I became a partner, I figured out, I already knew you could just go to somebody who's manufacturing something and say, give me one. Somebody will give them. Sometimes people give them to you. So I just started with emails. I forget what year. Probably go look on the gear channel. You can kind of see whenever I started doing knife reviews. I literally just started writing emails to everybody who I knew was cool and that made a knife. And I went to their website and I figured out what knives I wanted. and I asked them for like 3 or 4 knives. And I'd say, can you send me this one and this one and this one to do reviews on my channel? And this was, keep in mind, before there was such a thing as YouTube channels. There might have been like Nut and Fancy existed, but it wasn't like a common thing. You'd have to go look on the internet and then figure out if there was a guy doing these, right? And I think it was, I don't even remember, but it was something like all but one sent me knives. And I think Victorinox was like, how about I send you this one instead of the ones I wanted? But everybody else pretty much sent me the ones I wanted. And I'm not even kidding around. Like they were automatic, that auto axis from Benchmade was like a $200 knife or something. Like they were expensive knives. So anyway, I just started writing emails, and I had no experience and nothing. I had there was no channel. It was just a bunch of maybe 7 videos or something. And they were just goofy stuff. So anyway, I don't know if that's the same for everybody, because obviously years are different or whatever, but I started to collect this stuff. And once, I'm a cheap dude, so once I figured out you could do that, I started doing that more. And then started going, I was going to SHOT Show, I guess, so I wasn't doing it completely raw. But it's going to SHOT Show, and then I started to get entire inventories of people's collections. You guys have experienced this already to some extent. Somebody's like, oh, here, you're helping me and it's been successful. Here, you do it once or twice, and you sell more of their backpacks, or you sell more of their wallets or something. And then they're like, here's everything we sell, period, like in a box, boom. So now that happened to a couple of places. And you're desperate to want to help them out because they just gave you a bunch of stuff, but you can only do so much stuff, right? And this is when YouTube was paying us and everything, so it was a little bit different. But anyhow, I had an interest in creating community, and I wanted to do something different and play around with this internet and not just do the same old. So, like I say, I'd have to go back. I think I did it on the gear side, actually. Maybe I can go find it, because I didn't really shut down any videos on the gear side, have I? But anyway, I figured out what I could cram into, at the time, like a $7 box from one of those fixed rate boxes from the post office. What the hell would I call it? Swap, maybe? So I took, I don't know, a couple of different things, like a something like a backpack or a pouch or something like a knife, something like a camera accessory, something like article of clothing, maybe. And I had a lot of stuff, so I just kind of divided some stuff up and I put it into boxes. And there was maybe like 10 things in each box. And then I sent and I got a bunch of people. Well, I guess I'll remain nameless because 2 of them are fucking dicks. But so I got 4 people who, and I've done this in the past, and I probably should quit doing it at some point. 2 people who I knew, 1 person who I was like, I don't know you, but you seem cool, and another person who I kind of didn't like, who I thought was kind of a dick, but I figured it was a way to include somebody who was, not in our clique or whatever, and to get a truly, unbiased view of this stuff. And it was also somebody who I thought was doing valid work, even though I didn't like him. I thought he was a dick. He was pro gun and everything, and he was successful. So I was like, do you guys all want to do this? I'm going to send you all these boxes, and then every month I'm going to PayPal you, put everything back in the box, and send it to the next guy. As long as everybody's okay with knowing each buddy's address, then every month get this stuff, do as many reviews or not. You're not obligated to anything, and this will be a way for us to share and do some different, there's all different kind of ways to play with that. You get on a live chat and you talk about all the different stuff at the end, or there was like a flashlight in each one, so there's like 16 different flashlight videos get created. So that turned into a horrible failure, so I quit doing it. But I think the potential is there. You just got to not do it with somebody who you don't like, probably, and then don't do it with those 3 dicks. Well, excuse me, 2 dicks and 1 guy who couldn't do it all himself either. But anyway, I think the potential's there, and probably do it with fewer things. Do it with maybe 3 things in the box, so that it's not like, I don't know, it might have been overwhelming for him to get like 10 things and then go, oh, where do I start? Because maybe they weren't, just able to kick out videos or something.
I think that concept is awesome. I love that idea of, gun gals talk about the Sisterhood of the Traveling Purse and all that stuff, and getting something that they all do reviews on. But I think that could lend itself to a lot of different opportunities, not just for the company, because let's say you get 4 people, well, that company's getting 4 separate review videos for one product, so they're seeing the value in that. Those channels are going to see the value because they're having access to gear and stuff that they might not have access to on their own. So I think that just feeds itself. That's a great idea.
Oh, and then I didn't get to finish, I guess, because once you said that, it made me remember the other part of it, which you never got to actually finish it. The idea was that once everybody was done, I would again PayPal them because I was the only one making money back then. This was also, I was trying to get other channels to do something because there was money being made, right? So I was going to have them all send me the stuff back, and then we were going to put it all in an auction and then donate that money to someplace. Or maybe we were going to do 4 auctions. And then basically you'd own the crap. Somebody could own the crap that all 4 of us had fiddled with. And 3 of these channels were big ass channels at the time. So, that had been kind of neat because, it's kind of neat. You have a flashlight that 3 different people have fiddled with. It is the flashlight from 4 different videos. And then whatever, like I said, then we would donate that money to someplace cool. So I think if you were going to create something like that, you could say, yeah, you're going to donate some product like you were saying originally. And like I was saying, you can get blemished. You can get stuff that's about to be out of, the last year's model. You can get back inventory they had on a shelf somewhere. You can get old T&E stuff that they've gotten back, right, which have very little value for them. You could get damaged stuff that they've refurbished, right? There's so many ways you can get stuff from them that isn't, asking them to just sacrifice profits or something. And then, yeah, you're going to take this stuff. You're going to get all these reviews, and eventually it's going to get sold and, go to good use someplace. Maybe donate it to the scouts or something.
I like it.
Or I guess instead of wasting the time giving it to scouts and you can just find some girl walking down the street and give it to her.
Oh, you could do that too. Yeah, sure. Whatever floats your boat,
Man, I cannot remember. Maybe I took them down because it was a horrible failure. Like 2 or 3 people made videos and then everybody just kept the stuff. Like, okay.
Yeah, it eventually happens. I tried the whole thing with we did where it was like pipe smokers or whatever with a couple of groups on Facebook, and they told me, when I tried it, that it's been tried before and it always ends in failure. Where you put some pipe tobacco, some different stuff in a box, right? And you just send it on, and that person will take some tobacco out and then put some in and then send it on and so forth and so on. And they said it'll go to maybe 3 or 4 people, and then that's it. And I did it twice over the course of about a year. And it was the same way both times. It got through, 2 or 3 people or something, maybe 4, cratered out.
And then you got the danger of it like traveling to Colorado and then somebody getting all confused and then it goes to like Illinois and somebody gets arrested.
Oh, yeah, that could be too. Tobacco does not look like weed. I'm just saying it does not.
It's a different type of pipe substance.
Wrong pipe club.
Right.
Sorry, bro. All right. All right. Well, I think we fixed a lot of things or not, but I'm gonna go get me some bean soup.
It's been a hell of a discussion either way.
Yeah. So we kept Ghost up for a long.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
I know.
I've only been doing this for 8 or 9 hours today, so it's all good,
All right. Well, go buy Clover a cup of coffee. Go buy Ghost. What do you want? Something warm cup of milk so you can go to sleep. And we'll see you all next time. Somebody has a show tomorrow, do they? Rick?
Rick's got one, yeah.
Yep.
And then Matt. And then we'll be back.